Doing an album, or at least reviewing an album, that was inspired by the 80s is not necessarily foreign to me, exactly. Not with this record here, especially. I talked about The Weeknd before. The whole 80s revival that dominated the charts back in the start of this decade was very much led by The Weeknd with After Hours. But I think Dua Lipa deserves to be in that conversation to some degree. Now, I'm sure she does get brought up in those conversations when it comes to how commercially successful that record was. I think it often just gets dominated by The Weeknd, mainly to me personally because of popularity contests. I think that's because of how much After Hours was already seen as a new chapter in his career, and that he was already very well established as an artist because he dated all the way back to 2011 with House of Balloons. But no, seriously, I do think Dua Lipa should be recognized for very well contributing to that age revival start to blossom in the start of this decade, which is why I'll be taking you through her 2020 record, Future Nostalgia. So Dua Lipa wasn't a complete nobody before 2020. Following her 2017 self-titled debut, she became a major pop star thanks to hits like New Rules. Feeling the pressure from creating a second album, she wanted to evolve. Personally, I didn't think her debut fully cemented her place yet because I felt like there was something else in the tank, just maybe, that she could possibly grow from this. For Future Nostalgia, which was released on March 27th, 2020, she enlisted writers and producers such as Jeff Baxter, Ian Kirkpatrick, Stuart Price, and The Monsters and Strangers to create a nostalgic pop and disco record with influences from dance pop, electronic music, inspired by artists such as Madonna, Gwen Stefani, Blondie, Outkast, and I would even say Donna Summer. I want to note that this was released right as the COVID-19 pandemic started. This record was originally scheduled for April, but because it was leaked online, she decided to release it a week early. One thing that surprised me was that she was worried about releasing an album like this because of the pandemic, but in the end, it became an escape that a lot of us needed. 2020 was such a weird time. The record was recorded for nearly 2 years, but the album cycle didn't start until 2019 with the lead single that you all must know and remembered at the time if you were there, Don't Start Now. Don't show up, don't come out. Given that this was the lead single, it's a great one. And one thing I immediately noticed was the shift in her sound. It's brighter, dance-oriented, and has synth pop and funk elements. According to songcontext.com, quote, the basic idea for the song was inspired by Lynn's sense of obligation to her former partner after their relationship. In addition, Kirkpatrick collaborated with producer Jay Cash to find the song's sound, which evolved into a back and forth between disco and 1980s music, end quote. Clearly, she had a mission to capture old school sounds with a modern punch, and it definitely succeeded. The narrative of the cut is something that makes it even better in my opinion. It's about a relationship coming to an end. Suddenly, the ex wants back in, but it's too late. Essentially, Dua Lipa plays the part of saying that you had your chance, but I've already moved on. Because I wasn't much of a music nerd back in 2019 and mostly listened to mainstream stuff, I ate the song up. I couldn't get enough of it after my first listen. The lyrics was just too relatable to pass up. One of the best singles of 2019, winning nominations for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Pop Solo Performance at the Grammy Awards. The song was also a commercial smash, reaching number 2 on both UK singles chart and becoming her highest charting US single at the time. It spent 52 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, and here's the thing, she was just getting started with this new chapter in her career. Now, before I get to the album, I won't mention the lead single as that's something I've already gone through. And with that out of the way, let's get into the track list itself. This was one of the promotional singles, and it sets a tone for what was going to arrive for the rest of the record. The first song that was written for this project, which makes sense to have this as the opener. Some of the lyrics came from a time in the studio with Baxter when they were talking about architecture and being overly confident, leading to the line. It sounds very futuristic, almost reminiscent of the Ghostbusters theme. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Those robotic vocals repeating in the title at times sound pretty good. It has electronic textures, and the "you can't get with this" part is Funk Bliss. If you ain't built for this, I can't build. Lyrically, she sounds as confident as ever, almost more than on her lead single. When architecture is brought up, it's a reference to American architecture John Lautner. Like modern architecture, John Lautner coming your way. I couldn't get enough of the last leg of the track because that part is just a straight up instrumental jam. We've been up all goddamn night. Now, this is where things get a little bit shaky. I think that this could have been just an instrumental track, according to her, quote, but a year down the line, when I was writing, he sat me down and was like, I have something to play you. And he just played the instrumental and I was like, this is actually really good with no lyrics. I would agree, this would have been better for that. However, I don't really mind this style of, synth pop. The vocals are something I admire about the song. She said, I went to the studio with Tove Lo and just had fun exploring. It has some Prince influences and it was a range of my voice I hadn't tried, end quote. It certainly sounds like it to a degree. Sure, she's no Prince when it comes to her vocal abilities. There's no doubt that she is a talented singer. Now, the cut is about the beginning to falling in love. She's trying to stay calm and composed around someone she's attracted to, but quickly realizes that's impossible. There's vulnerability in that, in the excitement of carefree summer romance, marking this as the point of her opening herself up to a new love. This is quite the shift to banger territory. This is a lot bolder, louder, and arena-sized anthem. Duo has pulled inspiration from the film Flashdance, and I would say, not only I could definitely hear the song Flashdance, What a Feeling. I love the pulsating bass and the chorus chants. It goes full throttle on that section of the song, with her vocal abilities just shining through. Belting her way through those melodies is simply ear candy. Believe it or not, the hook itself is a nod to Olivia Newton-John's hit of the same name. The song experiences closeness in a celebratory rush of finding someone who makes life bigger and more exciting. It emphasizes momentum, connection, and the feeling that two people are unstoppable together. And the music video captures that exact feeling. It's brightly colored, has retro fitness, anime-inspired animation, and weird illusions here and there. It certainly feels like a fucking fever dream, but it definitely complements the song in a way. Met me at the perfect time. You want me, I want you. Oh god, I remember this song. I couldn't get enough of it either. This was a career-defining moment. And how it came about was when she and producer Stephen Kaz worked backward. Kaz wanted to make what he called a slinky disco track. He was on the hunt for the vintage Roland VP330 synthesizer for years. It was written in a single day at Song West Studios in London. The team behind the song imagined existing in a colorful, over-the-top world of the Austin Powers films, which helped inspire its playful, carefree mood. They even joked about Mike Myers dancing to it while writing the lyrics. The whole thing about Sugar Boo in the song was something that came from an inside joke amongst the writers. The song itself, it's a great time. It sounds very spacious, funky, disco-y, but seriously, it has the DNA of disco and electro disco all in its production. I love the breakdown before we hit the bridge. I love how it uses a lot of space imagery in the lyrics, references to galaxies, the Milky Way, starlight, and rockets blasting off. Personally, I do think that the version with the baby is a bit better than this one, regardless of how I feel about him nowadays. Think I lied a little. Interesting how not many people know about this song. It's definitely one of the strongest deep cuts here. First off, the production is a very nice change of pace. The thick bass line is accompanied by cowbell, short bursts of explosions, and a rich funk vibe to it. While it's minimal, it gets more detailed as the song progresses. At this point, we're now at the point of being more vulnerable. Levitating sort of felt like a detour, and it's more of a continuation of the song Physical. It strips everything back, and she thinks that she could remain relaxed and detached, but finds herself feeling anxious, needy, and emotionally invested, marking it as a moment of uncertainty along with signs of vulnerability. Of course, there's a little bit of history with this track. Producer S.G. Lewis and songwriter Francis started writing on the same day Lewis created the instrumental for his own song, Feed the Fire. It was still unfinished until Dua Lipa heard the demo and wanted to finish it with them. Despite her and S.G. Lewis having known each other for years now, or by that point, this was their first time writing together. Lewis has stated that Dua elevated the song almost instantly, making it one of the easiest collaborations he'd ever completed. Then there's a song, and it's also great. It's literally fantastic. It has new elements like electro, swing, and psychedelic pop. The hook of the track makes me feel like I'm blasting off into space. Dua herself described it as her festival song. The angle of the track uses hallucination as a metaphor for overwhelming love. She describes a romance so powerful that it changes the way she experiences the world. It's more of an emotional high point by portraying love as something exhilarating, obsessive, and impossible to ignore.
again. I used to think that I was meant.
Another big highlights. Yes, I'm here for it. And this one shifts toward something more fragile. This track has always held a place in my heart because of how great the songwriting is. It's centered around manifesting positivity, focusing on the emotional relief that comes with unexpectedly finding someone who restores your faith and love. She has stated that the song is about believing in good things that can never happen after you convince yourself that never will. The production is damn good. It continues those disco vibes with strings that sound gorgeous and a bit of electronic elements in there too. It starts from a place of heartbreak and leads to thinking that love isn't impossible anymore. Meeting someone changes that perspective almost entirely, making the emotions turn unexpectedly. Maybe this is the best song. It's been quite difficult to pick one. The production continues the record's core objective, dance pop house. I love the bouncing bass line, the killer guitar on it as it serves as like the backbone of the track. And the drums lead into the chorus is pure serenity. Like now she's at the point of letting someone in. However, there's still a sense of fear. Already having experience with past heartbreaks, there is a new problem. Vulnerability. She has described the song as a celebration of vulnerability because it captures this strange moment of when someone is really going well and your brain suddenly asks the question, how does this all go wrong? It keeps tugging with views like this person really wants this, but they're scared of how much they want it. They're not afraid of love, but they are afraid that something this good could disappear. I guess in the music video, it definitely showcases that emotional uncertainty to a degree, like showing multiple versions of herself and references to old television and advertising styles.
You tell me what I want, but ain't no follow through.
Okay, here's record starts to lose me. While it does come off as playful, I'm not a huge fan of this quirky style of pop. I'm really not. Dua has said that she considered changing style because of how direct it was, but ultimately kept it because the song's bluntness was part of the joke. The track has a very much a cartoony vibe with a slice of sexual tension given the title. Like it's now that this relationship with these partners and their chemistry is pretty much undeniable by this point, despite the underlying issues. Now, for the longest time, I always thought it was just a way of saying that they're doing each other in the bed. But it's not necessarily like that in the lyrics. But when looking at the chorus and its weird vocalization with mad, and sad, kind of leading to like that's what makes us good in bed. I was like, how could I not think of these partners doing each other in the bed? We at the end of the record, and it's a weak closer. The title alone already raises some questions. However, because I'm an empathetic person, unlike these motherfuckers on TikTok, I'm willing to understand where this comes from. The track came from conversations about the realities of growing up as a woman. Dua has explained that she wanted to write about experiences that are often dismissed or normalized, especially the fear and discomfort girls can experience because of unwanted attention or harassment. She specifically talked about memories from her own youth, including the anxiety of walking home from school and feeling unsafe. Her goal was not simply to criticize, but to start a conversation about empathy, awareness, and changing attitudes. Musically speaking, what is the song doing on the record? What doing here? It's a complete sour turn from the vintage style. I guess I really don't mind this orchestral instrumentation with the strings. I like the choir background vocals and the overall cinematic atmosphere. The track challenges the title "Boys Will Be Boys" or the obvious phrase, which is something I always thought was a weak excuse towards immature or harmful behavior that is done by boys and men. Dua flips that on its head by asking why girls are expected to adapt their behavior to avoid problems of society, teaching boys accountability and respect. Personally, I agree with that angle because that phrase is something I've never liked. I don't think I ever will, because that is just a one-way ticket for influencing bad behavior, especially towards young boys. But like I mentioned, I don't think it fits on the record because, like I said, it's a sour turn musically speaking. Also, this could have easily been a single and we could have just called it a day. Okay, that was Future Nostalgia, and honestly, I had a great time. It was surprisingly well written given the overarching narrative that Dua Lipa went with, regardless of whether or not that was intentional. The production across the record is great. The tight grooves, explosive moments, and her vocal talent shined brightly on some tracks here and there. I love the musical tribute to these eras that they actually represent and the genres that actually came with those eras. The record starts very strong, but it ends very weakly, with it trying to be more quirky, one of which was part of the first half of the project. But when trying to capture a message, it's better to make it part of the narrative rather than a detour if you're going to have it on the record like this, which is why I'll give this an A-. Remember in the beginning how I said Don't Start Now, that lead single was basically everywhere and I pretty much ate the song up? Well, the record itself was very, and I mean very successful. It was met with widespread critical acclaim, praise for its artistic evolution, consistency, blend of multiple genres, and having a stronger confidence as a performer and vocalist. It also became a worldwide phenomenon, reaching #1 in multiple countries, reaching the top 10 in dozens of countries, becoming her first record to reach the top 5 on the Billboard 200 in the US, spending a while on international albums charts, and most of all, becoming one of the most successful pop records of that year. The lead and promotional singles were ginormous successes, but the most notable one was Levitating, so much so that it got some remixes. Most famously, the one with the baby, and I ate that song up. I swear to you, there was no way you're gonna tell me you did not hear the song on the radio all the fucking time. It received a ton of recognition at the 63rd Grammy Awards. The record earned 6 nominations, including Album of the Year. It won Best Pop Vocal Album, a much-deserved accolade. Over in the UK, it won the Brit Award for British Album of the Year. It surprisingly had an impact on pop music around that time because much of pop was dominated by darker trap-influenced sound. I believe that Dua Lipa was willing to challenge that very premise, regardless if that was her intention or not. And this kick-started the 80s revival for this era, specifically for this decade, as well as the record from The Weeknd that came out that same year. But that's for another video if y'all want to see that. We cannot deny is that the pandemic played a role to its success. By the time it arrived, pretty much everything was canceled. For me, the most devastating thing was that sports was like gone for like 2 months and everyone was basically like isolated. It was a form of escapism. It certainly helped me as I was going through a rough period during the pandemic. Looking back now, not only am I glad that I did this, but this was a career defining sophomore release that was also part of the 80s revival for that era. That was a fun ride. I wonder what Dua Lipa is doing now in her career. I guess I should find out at some point because I'm only gonna get older. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next video.
All night, come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.